This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
U.S. crude stocks rose last week as refinery utilization slipped, the Energy Information Administration, EIA, said on Wednesday, as winter storms sweeping the country hit fuelmakers' operations and boosted distillates demand. Crude inventories rose by 3.5 million barrels to 415.1 million barrels in the week ended January 24, the EIA said, compared with analysts' expectations in a Reuters poll for a 3.2 million barrel rise. Crude oil futures trimmed losses slightly after the data showed total U.S. oil demand rose last week. The 4-week average for total U.S. product demand was at 20.29 million barrels of oil per day, up 2.5% from a year ago.
Oil prices were little changed on Thursday as markets braced for threatened tariffs by U.S. President Donald Trump on Mexico and Canada, the two largest suppliers of crude oil to United States, and awaited a meeting of OPEC plus producers. Brent crude futures were down 7 cents, or 0.09%, at $76.51 a barrel by 0738 GMT. U.S. crude futures were little changed at 2 cents up, or 0.03%, to $72.64. U.S. crude futures had settled at their lowest price this year on Wednesday. Trump still plans to make good on his promise to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico on Saturday, White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt told reporters on Tuesday.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
The International Energy Agency's former oil industry and market chief criticized the agency's focus on the global energy transition in a report released on Wednesday, and said the IEA should concentrate on oil and gas supplies. The IEA is under fire from the administration of President Donald Trump for a shift in recent years toward a focus on clean energy policy. A senior member of Trump's Republican Party and other oil industry representatives were present at a Washington event to mark the report's release. As member countries rapidly build renewable energy supplies and seek input on policies for the shift toward a low-carbon economy, the IEA has shifted with them.
The OPEC Plus group of leading oil producers is set to discuss President Donald Trump's efforts to raise U.S. oil production and take a joint stance on the matter, Kazakhstan said on Wednesday. Trump last week laid out a sweeping plan to help maximize oil and gas production, including by declaring a national energy emergency to speed permitting and rolling back environmental protections. Trump has also publicly called on the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its leading member, Saudi Arabia, to lower oil prices, saying doing so would end the conflict in Ukraine. Next, we have the top news in metal market. Copper and aluminium prices crept higher on Thursday as investors waited to see whether U.S. President Donald Trump would follow through with his threat to impose tariffs this weekend. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange, LME, was up 0.5% at $9,114 a metric ton by 10:30 GMT, while aluminium added 0.3% to $2,628. LME copper has shed 10% since hitting a 4-month peak of $10,158 last September. The problem with all the base metals is that they're in a waiting pattern to figure out what's happening with tariffs, said Nitesh Shah, commodity strategist at WisdomTree.
China's imports of iron ore and seaborne coal are on track for a soft start to the year, with January arrivals declining to multi-month lows. However, the price trends for the two key bulk commodities are divergent, with iron ore holding up while thermal coal slides to the weakest in nearly 4 years. China, the world's biggest iron ore buyer, is expected to import 99.5 million metric tons of the key steel raw material in January, according to commodity analysts Capella.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
India is set to see above-average temperatures in February, with key wheat and rapeseed growing states likely to see maximum temperatures up to 5 degrees Celsius above average on some days in a risk to crops, 2 Weather Bureau sources said. As the world's second biggest wheat producer, India is counting on a bumper harvest in 2025 to avoid costly imports, following 3 straight years of poor crop yields since 2022. After a sharp, sudden rise in temperatures in February and March shriveled the crop, India, also the world's second biggest wheat consumer, was forced to ban exports of the staple in 2022.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.